Did you know that as a human being, from the moment you're born, you slowly glycate, you slowly cook.
You start to cook.
Yes, like a chicken in the oven. And then when you're fully cooked, you die. I know it sounds crazy, but it is true. And on the inside, you're actually browning. So if you look at the cartilage of a baby, it's white. If you look at the cartilage of somebody who's 100 years old, it's brown. Wow. It's been glycated. Glycation is cooking and it's aging. Now, why am I telling you this? Because every time you have a glucose spike, it accelerates glycation. Glucose causes this cooking, causes this glycation, causes this aging. So the more glucose spikes you have, the faster you age. And this shows on your skin as wrinkles, right? I'm actually 85 years old, but you can't tell because I don't have glucose spikes. And it also ages your organs within. And that's just one of the few things that happen when you have too many glucose spikes over time.
Need motivation?
Watch the top 10 we believe nation.
Hey, it's Evan Carmichael, and I watch these videos every day because I need them for motivation. Being around successful entrepreneurs every morning helps me believe that I can do great things too. It's like your morning coffee, but for your goals, kickstarting your day with a blast of positivity. So here is a challenge for you. Try watching one video every morning for the next 30 days. And let's find out together if they help you do great things too. If you're in, leave a hashtag believe in the comments below so I can celebrate with you. So today, let's learn from one of the best, Jessie Inchauspé, and our take on her top 10 rules of success. Enjoy. Rule number 2 is learn about glucose.
What is glucose? And why is it important to understand it?
I love this question. So glucose is also called blood sugar, right? And glucose is your body's favorite source of energy. So make a fist right now with your hand. Okay, so as you're doing this, the muscles in your hand are burning glucose to contract. And for everybody listening to us right now, the cells in your brain are currently burning glucose to understand what we're saying, right? Every single part of your body is burning glucose every nanosecond to keep you alive. And as human beings, the main way that we provide this very important glucose to our body is by eating foods, specifically by eating 2 categories of foods. Starches, so that's bread, pasta, rice, potatoes, oats, and sugars, anything that tastes sweet, from an apple to my favorite triple-layered chocolate cake, okay? So we eat starches and sugars and we give glucose to our body. So you might think, okay, I want lots of energy. Who doesn't want energy? So if glucose is my body's energy, I should give my body as much glucose as possible. I should eat as many starches and sugar as possible. Well, that's actually not the case. I love to take the image of a plant. Do you have any plants at home?
Many.
Okay, so you know that in order to keep a plant alive, you need to give the plant some water. But what happens if you give the plant too much water? It dies. Exactly. And the human body is similar. Some glucose, everything's going great. Too much glucose, and problems start happening.
Rule number 3 is eat food in the right order.
Scientific studies have shown us that if we eat the elements of a meal in a particular order, we can reduce the glucose spike of that meal by up to 75%. Now, why is it important to reduce glucose spikes? Because most of us have glucose spikes on a daily basis, and we don't even know it. But these spikes are creating symptoms: fatigue, cravings for sugar and chocolate and cookies, not sleeping very well, inflammation, hormonal issues like PCOS or difficult menopause. Every glucose spike also inches us closer and closer to developing type 2 diabetes. Essentially, if you want to feel better than you currently do, regulating your glucose levels is the place to start. It's like the foundation of the house of your health. If your glucose levels are spiking all the time, like most of ours are, you're just not going to feel good, and you're not going to be able to go after the life that you want to go after. So glucose spikes reduction, super, super important. So this first hack, eating your food in the right order. So scientists discovered that if you eat the veggies first during a meal, then the proteins and the fats, and then the carbs, so the starches and the sugars, then you can reduce the glucose spike of your meal by up to 75%. So this is an easy place to start. Next time you're faced with a meal, if there's a clear separation between the elements in the meal, have the veggies first, then the meats and the fats, and then leave the carbs like the rice, the pasta, the potatoes, the bread, and the dessert, obviously. Leave those for the end of the meal.
Rule number 4 is fight your addiction.
It would be great if most of us could just stop at that first spoonful. But what happens generally is that, for example, if you have one of these fig bars, that's going to create a glucose spike in your body and then a crash. And that crash activates the craving center in your brain. And so 90 minutes later, you want another sweet thing.
Yes.
And then you eat another carby sweet snack. And then it just goes on. And you're on this roller coaster, this addiction cycle. And that's one of the issues that I'm trying to help people solve. How can you eat that first piece of chocolate, that first piece of cake, without creating the glucose roller coaster that is going to lead to more cravings and more addiction for the rest of the day, right?
Yeah.
Because not everybody has the kind of mental strength that you have where you can just say no.
Also, to make sure you're actually taking action after watching this video, I've designed a special free worksheet just for this video. The worksheet will highlight our favorite lessons from the video that will inspire you to remember what you learned today and actually apply them. The worksheet will also give you space to write down what your key takeaways are and your specific plan of action to make sure you're getting results. If you want the worksheet designed specifically for this video, absolutely for free, there's a link in the description below. Go click on it and start building the momentum in your life and your business. I'll see you there. Rule number 5 is don't eat sweets for breakfast.
Do not have dessert for breakfast. Breakfast is not dessert time. All of the breakfast food that you see today are total man-made inventions that make a lot of money to the food industry. But this breakfast cereal and the fruit juices and the fruit smoothies and the granola, and that is dessert. Yeah, that is dessert, right? Breakfast is a normal meal. So breakfast should be savory. And then I would also tell this mom, listen, your kid is going to grow up in a world where quote unquote processed and bad junk food is everywhere. So you need to teach your kid to maximize the pleasure they're going to get from the donut, because everybody wants something sweet once in a while, but you have to teach them how to eat that in a way that's going to be less harmful to their health. And the most basic place to start is to say, if you want to eat something sweet, something processed, something junky foody, have it for dessert after a meal, never for breakfast, never on an empty stomach, right?
So you're pulling sweet out of the meal.
Exactly. I'm taking sweet out of breakfast. Yes. And then I'm saying, if you want to eat something sweet, it should be at the end of a meal for dessert, never on its own, never first thing in the morning, because that way you're getting the dopamine hit, which is this innate reward system.
Yeah.
You know, we get a hit of this pleasure molecule when we eat something sweet.
That's right.
But if we have the sweet thing at the end of a meal, after there's already other foods in our stomach, we're going to reduce the glucose spike from it.
Rule number 6 is limit your sugar intake.
American Heart Association recommends no more than 25 grams of added sugar, I think for women, and 50 grams for men, something like that. But we don't need any of this sugar. We don't need to eat any sweet stuff at all. Your body does not need sugar to live. So that is an upper limit, if you will. Yeah, that's an upper limit.
Yeah, whereas like we're seeing it as the basic requirement.
Yeah, it's like saying, I don't know, 3 cigarettes are allowed a day. It's like, it doesn't mean you should smoke cigarettes. It means like that's the upper limit after which real problems start happening. But it's better to have 0. But then what these recommendations don't take into account is, when are you eating the sugar? Is it first thing in the morning? So you're increasing inflammation, brain fog, increasing risk of diabetes, hurting your mitochondria, having cravings, aging faster? Or is it after a lunch that had fiber at the beginning of a meal, where the impact is going to be way less hardcore on your health? So if you just keep eating the same amount of sugar as you're eating, but you just change when you're eating it,
that's the first step.
You're already going to see a big impact on your health.
And then second step could be reducing amounts.
For sure. And naturally, because you're not creating that cycle of addiction, you're going to have fewer cravings for the sugar anyway.
Yeah.
There's this other really cool study I want to tell you about. So scientists put participants in an fMRI scanner. You know, those big donut scanners. Okay, so they were looking at their brain activity. And as the participants were in the scanner, there was a screen in front of their eyes. And the screen showed images of food: chocolate cake, donut, broccoli, burger, etc. And the scientists asked the participants to rate how much they wanted to eat that food from 1 to 10. Okay, like 1 is like, I don't care. 10 is like, I want to eat this right now. And the participants were hooked up to a machine that was measuring their glucose levels in real time. And this is what the scientists found. They found that when people's glucose levels were steady, they were rating all the foods like 5-ish. Burger, 5-ish. Broccoli, 5-ish. So, no particular cravings. But then when the participants' glucose levels were dropping, two things happened. First thing, on the brain scan, the craving center was activating. And second thing, they started rating all of the sweet foods really highly. Okay? And that just goes to show that you cannot control these cravings.
Yeah.
They come from a deep part of your brain that goes onto alert mode when your glucose levels are crashing, because it is a dangerous thing for the body, right? Your body doesn't know that crash came from a spike because you just ate 15 donuts.
Yeah.
Your body thinks it's low on energy.
Yeah.
And so all this to say that as you steady your glucose levels, this craving center will activate less and less. So naturally, you're not going to want to eat as much sugar. And you're going to switch from a situation in which you were controlled by those cravings to a situation in which you'll eat the sugar you really like for pleasure, for enjoyment, without feeling controlled. So instead of feeling like, oh my God, I need to eat something sweet right now, give me anything, any chocolate bar, it's more like, you know what? Tomorrow, I want to go to my favorite bakery and get my favorite pastry. From a sense of like agency and strength and boundaries versus being a victim to that sugar addiction.
Rule number 7 is take care of your brain.
What's going on that people don't realize, or people
that your
should
glucose
know?
levels impact how your brain feels instantly. So we talked about Alzheimer's. That's a very long process, right? But today, right now, what you ate 90 minutes ago is defining how you feel in this moment, right? It's defining whether you feel brain fog. It's defining how irritated you are, whether you're angry with those around you. It's defining whether you have cravings, whether you feel hangry, whether you feel agitated, and your tyrosine levels, right? Your mood, happy, not so happy. So your food impacts your brain. And that's what I discovered in my own journey. And it was so shocking because you don't talk about this. People don't realize. But if you want to feel better, if you want to feel more like yourself, calmer, happier, it's so important to look at your food. And then your food also impacts your gut. And your gut secretes so many molecules that go into your brain.
Rule number 8 is move after eating.
After you eat, move. What do I mean by after you eat, move? Well, every single cell in our body uses glucose for energy. So if you sort of shake your fingers, like I'm doing here, your finger cells are going to be burning glucose in order to be able to contract and make this movement. So the more and the harder a muscle is told to contract, the more glucose it's going to need in order to do so. So we can use this to our advantage. And here's the hack. After one meal of your day, use your muscles for 10 minutes, very simply. Within 90 minutes after the end of your meal, move, get up, go for a 10-minute walk. You can clean your apartment, you can walk your dog, you can do your laundry, you can do the dishes, yes, that counts. Oh, you can do this really easy hack. So if you're sitting down, you put your feet on the ground and then you raise your heels. I was going to say calves. You raise your heels up and down. You're doing calf raises. And as you're doing calf raises, you're activating a muscle in your calf called the soleus muscle. It's right here. And the soleus muscle is very good at soaking up excess glucose from your bloodstream. So let's say you're at work and you want to do the movement hack, but you also, don't want to just do squats in the middle of a conference room. So you can do this under your desk. You can put a little timer, 10 minutes, even during a meeting. Nobody will know. Nobody will know. And you're going to be helping your glucose levels and your body through this very simple movement.
Rule number 9 is stop counting calories.
Do you know, Jay, how people used to measure the amount of calories in a food?
No, I don't know.
Okay. So if they wanted to measure the amount of calories in a donut, here's what they used to do. They would put the donut in a little box. And they would put this box in a bigger, like an aquarium, like a big basin of water, okay? They put the donut box at the bottom of the aquarium. And then they would light the donut inside the box on fire. The donut would burn. And then they would measure by how many degrees the water in the aquarium increased.
Oh my gosh.
So And that would give you the number of calories in the donut.
Wow.
The calories is just a measure of how much heat is given up when something is burned. So if you were to put an avocado in that box and burn it, it might increase the water temperature around it by the exact same number of degrees. Therefore, you would say this donut and this avocado have the same number of calories. Now, it seems pretty obvious that this is kind of a silly way to measure food. It's almost like saying, oh, this book and this book have the same number of pages. Therefore, they're the same book. This is not the case, right? My book and your book might have the same number of pages, but they're not about the same topic. They're not from the same author. They don't give you the same information, don't give you the same emotion, right? And so if we just talk about foods based on how many calories they contain, we're missing what's actually key. What is in that food? What are the molecules in that food? Is that food just glucose and going to create a big glucose spike? Or is that food just healthy fats and protein and going to keep your glucose levels steady?
And number 10, the last one before some very special bonus clips, is exercise.
We used to think that, all LDL was bad cholesterol. Now we understand there's LDL type A and LDL type B. And LDL type B is the more damaging one. It's these small, dense particles that lodge under the walls of your arteries. And LDL type B increases when you eat sugar. Your liver turns the sugar into LDL type B. So you have all these small, dense molecules. And then if on top of that, you add the oxidation, the inflammation, the glycation, it's a perfect storm. You're creating the perfect situation for all of your artery walls to become really calloused and to have all these particles lodged under it. And then all of a sudden, it makes a block, or there's a clot that is created, and then you have a heart attack. So no bueno.
No bueno. And people think about, well, I need to go on statins, I need to go on, monoclonal antibody. I mean, honestly, the number one thing you can do is change your diet.
Yeah, and exercise.
And exercise.
Yeah.
I mean, we'll come back to this over and over again. The number one drug
is
exercise.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
But it's hard. People don't want to go to the gym. I get it, but I love it now. You know, at the beginning, it's really hard and you have to just be a bit violent with yourself. And then I crave it. I crave going to the gym. I love it. It makes me feel so strong. And the physical strength also translates to mental strength as well. My mental health is much better when I'm working out. Add a veggie starter to the beginning of your meals. So what is a veggie starter? A veggie starter is a dish made from vegetables that you eat at the beginning of your meal. The veggie starter hack harnesses most of the power of the food order hack and is a bit simpler to implement. So this is what you do. At the beginning of your lunch or of your dinner, you simply add a plate of vegetables to the beginning of your meal. And this can be raw vegetables, cooked vegetables. You can add dressing to them. You can add sauces. You can add some cheese, whatever floats your boat. But start your meals with a plate of vegetables to, again, harness the power of that fiber they contain. And then after your veggie starter, eat whatever you usually eat. And the glucose spike of your meal is going to be much smaller than if you didn't have the veggie starter. And you're going to eat more in the process as well and help your body and your health at the same time. So it's kind of a win-win situation. The easiest veggie starters are ordering a side salad at a restaurant, having some cucumber slices, some cherry tomatoes, and your veggie starter should ideally make up about 30% of the overall volume of your meal.
For the superfoods you need to eat to prevent aging, check the video right there next to me. I think you'll love it. Continue to believe, and I'll see you there.
For people that struggle with weight loss or chronic inflammation, what is something that they can add to their diet that would help? Or is this simply a game of stripping away?
Even if we look at something like obesity, it's always important to look at